saw an interesting article on the juxtaposition of historical learning versus learning in the modern day sense. There was a recent study done which showed the difference between the way children learn now versus the way children learn in hunter gatherer societies throughout history. So, this is actually some pretty interesting stuff here. This says study helps explain how children learn for 99% of human history. Unlike kids in the United States, hunter gatherer children in the Congo Basin have often learned how to hunt, identify edible plants, and care for babies by the tender age of 6 or 7. This rapid learning is facilitated by a unique social environment where cultural knowledge is passed down not just from parents, but from the broader community. According to a new Washington State University led study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, the research helps explain how many cultural traits have been preserved for thousands of years among hunter gatherer groups across a wide range of natural environments in Africa. We focus on hunter gatherers because this way of life characterized 99% of human history. Our bodies and minds are adapted to this intimate small group living rather than to contemporary urban life. By examining how children in these societies learn, we aim to uncover the mechanisms that have allowed humans to adapt to diverse environments across the globe. For the study, Hewlett and colleagues used observational and ethnographic data to examine 9 different modes of cultural transmission, meaning from whom and how children learn in hunter-gatherer societies. Their analysis reveals that members related to a child's extended family have likely played a greater role in transmitting knowledge to children than previously thought. Additionally, the study shows about half of the cultural knowledge hunter gatherer children and adolescents acquire comes from people they are not related to. This contrasts with previous studies on the topic that have more heavily emphasized the transmission of knowledge from parent to child. Hewlett explains that the findings are likely due in large part to how children in hunter gatherer societies learn from a variety of sources, including parents, peers, and even unrelated adults in the community. This contrasts with the Western nuclear family model, where learning is often centered around parents or teachers in a formalized school setting. So let me skip a little bit further down to the bottom. Um, Moving forward, Hewlett hopes that this research offers a more nuanced understanding of the nature of social learning in humans and how cultures in general are conserved and changed over time. His co-authors on the study are so on and so forth. So, pretty interesting article. All relevant links, of course, will be in the description of this video. This approach to learning contributes to what we call cumulative culture, the ability to build on existing knowledge and pass it down through generations. Unlike in many non human animals, where social learning is limited to a few skills, humans have developed complex mental and social structures that allow for the transmission of thousands of cultural traits. This has enabled us to innovate and adapt to various environments, from dense forests to arid deserts. So essentially, this article is discussing the value of traditional hunter gatherer societies and how that creates, or rather curates, an environment for learning in children and adolescents that we see has contributed to the way Western cultures learn, but has also deviated from it at the same time. I think is the point that it was trying to make there.
Mhm.
So, what do you make of this particular study when it comes to the transmission of learned traits and shared learning and education in like hunter gatherer societies?
Yeah, man, I thought this was real interesting, man, because as it says, at the top there, it says 99% of human history, which means that this has been going on for a long time, and this is how children learn. Whether and honestly, I would also add this is how they learn in the West as well, uh, because what they were doing was observing what was going on in hunter gatherer situations, and they were witnessing that the kids were being more autonomous. They were just out there doing their thing and just learning from peers, other elders or whoever, people that was picking berries or whatever. They would know which berries to pick, that kind of situation. So kids inherently have this mechanism in them where they want to learn from their surroundings. And a child being taught by more than just their parents is crucial to the child's overall development. And if this has been going on for 99% of human history, I would argue that it's still going on because this is an inherent trait that are within children, period. And so I would also throw over that if kids are still doing that here in the West, they're still learning from their parents and other stuff now. Whatever's on that TV is the new elder. That's the new person picking that berry. So they don't have that person that's the neighbor or the second cousin or whoever that to just watch and observe to learn how their marriage works. Now, mom is watching Law and Order, SVU, and Ice-T just ran across a body that's been raped. Now, this kid is learning that because children observe and absorb. Observe and absorb. That's why children more or less have the tendency of their primary caregiver, because they've been learning how their primary caregiver deals with conflicts, deals with stress, deals with success, learn how to be successful, because they're constantly learning and adopting and going, oh, okay, you know what I'm saying? You pick up that and put it in your mouth and eat it, I'll do the same. And people think it's the cutest thing ever, but the kids are literally just observing and replicating, observing and replicating. So when they were saying with these hunter-gatherer kids that they would know how to, find the right berries, know how to take care of children, do other things by the age of 6 or 7, because the only thing they've been doing was being observant and seeing what everybody else was doing. And as they said, the culture allowed them to be autonomous enough, meaning that they didn't coddle them or nothing. They say, hey man, go out there and figure it out. Or you're 4 years old, this is how you do it. The hell? 4 years old is just a concept to them, in the sense of you're already a human, you're not limited because you're 4. So that's why they would know how to do things by the age of whatever. And those things are still going on today in children, but they're being blocked off from certain things. They're not allowed to be autonomous in a lot of ways. They're being sheltered in a lot of ways, and now they're observing and replicating a lot of dangerous stuff that people call entertainment. So I would also caveat, all of this stuff, just adding on honestly to what they were saying. But I would also say that I don't think it's just unique to hunter-gatherer children of that's how people learn. I think that's how everybody learns. But in the hunter-gatherer sense, they're not sitting there drilling into them particular types of things. They're allowing them to watch their elders who already have a rich understanding of culture and understanding and mimic that, because then you'll fall in line. But the kids today are mimicking what the chaos that they're seeing on social media, entertainment and stuff like that. And then they grow up to be DDG. But that's how I look at it, man. But what are your thoughts, man, on this study here with these hunter-gatherer kids with a different type of learning style? What are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, I think the value of being able to observe other people in your community and not just those in your immediate environment is a value that has been lost, because I think now it still happens in pockets, but in mass, there's less children outside playing in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Technology has replaced
Yeah.
what used to be that in the westernized version. So
Agreed.
like for me, when I was growing up as a kid, my hunter-gatherer autonomy was in, right around 5.
Well, we were hunter-gatherer autonomous, man.
Yeah. Like the westernized version of hunter-gatherer autonomous, I would say right around the time that I was right around maybe between 5 and 6 p.m. every day, my mother would come home.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as my mother came home, I was out of the door. So like I was out of the door and I wouldn't come home until it was dark and the lights were on. But in the midst of me daily being outside, I was around other peers in the immediate environment. But not only that, I was in the household of my peers as well. So I
Mhm.
wasn't only observing the marriage of my parents, I was
Mhm.
observing the marriage of my friends' parents too. I
Mhm.
was observing the sibling relationships of my friends and their siblings because I was in their house playing with them with their toys, playing their video games, riding bikes with them, and doing all that good stuff.
Mhm.
It impressed upon me how to take pieces of what I was learning when I was in those moments back with me to my own nuclear environment. And it
Mhm.
helped to inform me on how to be a more well rounded individual. Albeit I was still a child, a lot of those things subconsciously were being impressed upon me.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
whether it was the foods, whether it was the stuff they watched on TV, whether it was how they gathered around the dinner table. For example, I had a friend of mine who was a Jehovah's Witness. They lived right 3 doors away. I could literally walk to their house, right? And so I had that dichotomy of I'm at home in my house where my mom is a missionary Baptist and we're doing things the way we do it. And I'm eating the foods that she cooks. But then every now and again, I'm at his house and I'm eating their food and I'm seeing what they like to watch on TV and how when it's time to eat at the dinner table, they're turning the TV off and they're just
Mhm.
talking to each other and they're doing all of these different things. And I'm
Mhm.
seeing how his parents won't buy him any violent video games or how his mom won't allow him to play with any violent toys or anything of that nature. That was diametrically opposed to the way that I was coming up, but it
Mhm.
gave me a different perspective.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
feel like less and less these days as children are more inward and they're not outside as much. There's less of that community aspect of everybody's just out playing with each other and doing this and doing that physically, actively. There's less of an opportunity for that kind of subconscious impression on the mind to take place. And I think that those kinds of things help to make children more well rounded, or rather,
Mhm.
it gives them a more well rounded perspective and allows them to be a more whole human being as an adult. You sort
Agreed.
of take bits and pieces of what you get from other environments and you bring it into what you're seeing in your own environment.
Mhm.
And it just helps to make you a more cultured, well rounded individual, which, in my opinion, makes people better, more well rounded people.
Agreed.
And so I think that's what's being lost. And as primitive as hunter gatherer societies are, the children are nevertheless still being raised within that communal context. So there are certain skill sets and dispositions that they develop as a result, which help to make them more productive people
Correct.
and help to make them more, I would say, psychologically stable as well. So that's kind of what I took from that piece. And generationally, this is something that is just kind of dying off as we continue to devolve. Being more reliant and dependent upon technology and becoming more deranged. Because I know a lot of seriously, like I know a lot of parents, for example, who are reticent to just let their kid go out and play
Yeah.
because people are crazy out here. Like
Yeah.
you don't know if your kid's going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and
Right.
some weirdo psycho person does some weirdo psycho stuff.
Right.
So it's all a sign of the times, and it's unfortunate. But I do think that the findings of that study make a lot of sense. Maybe on the western end, not hunter gatherer from the standpoint that I'm in the wilderness, learning
Right.
how to like hunt a deer per se. Although I do think that that's a valuable skill too.
Right.
But hunter gatherer from the standpoint that as a kid you're being allowed to just go and during those 3 hours a day when you're outgoing, you're picking up certain things and you're learning certain things, and certain things are subconsciously being impressed upon you, and then you bring it back with you and you learn from those things and you get the chance to do that again tomorrow
Yeah.
and the next day and the next day and the next day. And unfortunately that's been lost because we're industrialized and we're technology dependent and AI dependent and afraid of the crazies. So it is what it is, man. Hopefully, we can sort of learn from that kind of stuff, and maybe we will experience a renaissance where the craziness can be dialed back, as well as the dependency upon technology can be dialed back, so that kids can get the opportunity to go outside more often than not. But right now, I can understand how that's disappeared, but it certainly needs to be brought back to the forefront of relevancy, in my opinion, a lot more than it is now.
Yeah, agreed, man. And and that's social autonomy now, man, is all online. So, not being able to roam around in the front yard, but roam around in your phone, that's what's going on right now. Or roam around on your Xbox Live or whatever PlayStation got, and you just chatting it up with the other degenerates online. You know what I'm saying? Just saying the most, you know, crazy stuff because everything's crazy online. And that's how they're getting socialized. The lockdown in 2020 didn't help either when it came to people being more indoors as well. So I think this study shows how this type of learning, this type of socialization can help a group of people last for thousands of years. And they've sustained their way of living for thousands of years because of this way of living. And I think what's interesting right now is that we have gone the other direction here in the West or any other westernized culture. Their socialization is going more digital, and we're already seeing some of the social ramifications of that. So I don't know if that's going to be lasting thousands of years. So there needs to be some level of community that gets built again. I'm with you, man. You can't let your kids run out in the front yard no more, as crazy as that sound in some respects. You know what I'm saying? Like, this ain't the 80s, even though kids was getting snatched up there too.
Yeah.
It's just a different day and age with the weird stuff, dude. So I understand when parents have those concerns too. I guess the best way to do it, having some type of clubs and organizations that are, what I'm saying, clean, so they can get different levels of perspective on life. And it's not just, online gaming or just school stuff. They're getting, some like-minded interests with people. They're seeing other ways of being, but clearly there is a wealth in understanding different perspectives other than your parents, apparently. And if
Mhm.
these people have been thriving for thousands of years, because they live like this and the trajectory to live more thousands of years like that, I think it's best to adopt some of that stuff back into our culture. Maybe we'll have less of these situations where we're on this platform constantly saying how people need to get back to
Yeah.
some type of normality.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. There's definitely some value in that for sure. I kind of interpreted hunter gatherer as just like hunter gatherer in the westernized sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not. Well, I do. Like I said, I do need to learn how to hunt. I do want to learn how to hunt. But besides that, like the aspect of just being out in the community and just sort of being ingratiated with
Right.
other people,
Right.
not your immediate household, other households, other parents, other relationships, other marriages, other sibling relationships,
Right.
these various interpersonal dynamics. It helps to be able to glean those in person and to be
Mm-hmm.
around it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I think has been lost.
Right.
So, it is what it is, man. But yeah, I get it. I get it. I know, like right now, like Halloween, for example, like trick or treating was a
Ain't the
thing when
same.
I was a kid,
Yeah,
and I'll
dude.
just be out there trick or treating with my buddies. I didn't really have my parents with me.
Right.
Now you be damned if you're a parent and you're gonna let your kid go out trick or treating alone. Like no
Which is
way.
which is
It's just
insane, dog.
yeah, it's crazy stuff, bro. And it's like if or what I've seen is a lot of parents will just take their kids to like an event somewhere, like a large public, like something at a park or another
Mm-hmm.
public venue where they're hosting like a Halloween event, for example, where
Mm-hmm.
there's just going to be hundreds of kids and parents and chaperones, and
Mm-hmm.
then you just let them have their Halloween fun there. But the old school mode that I came up on of just like I got my costume, me and my
Yeah.
friends, we gonna meet up, go outside, and I'll be back home in a couple of hours. You can't do it anymore. You
Nah.
can't. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things getting lost in translation as a result.
Yeah. Agreed, man. Hey, man, you sounded like Dave Chappelle there when he said, "You're a hunter gatherer, correct?" That's one of my favorite ones too,
I learned about you in social studies. Oh, the funniest stand-up in the history of stand-up, man. I'm sorry. Dave Chappelle, for what it's worth, from way back in 2004.
Comedy gold.
My all-time favorite stand-up, man. Go check that out.
Yeah, man.